Well, hello, welcome back to Tattoo Cabins. We are on a brief 2-week RV trip into Shenandoah National Park and a few other places along the way. And things are not going as according to plan. I'll just stick around and check it out. Hello.
Hello. Are you staying at one of the campgrounds or just driving through?
Big Meadow.
Have you been there before?
No.
So you're on the right track. You're going to go 20 miles to the south. You'll check in there at the campground.
Okay.
How tall is the trailer here behind you?
11 feet 5 inches.
Okay. So not this tunnel, but the tunnel coming up. You'll
Stay
be
in
fine.
the middle?
It's 12.8. If you're above 12.8, you won't make it through it, but yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hot brakes.
Well, a few months ago, I did a video on Ford's Pro Power Onboard generator on my new F-250 2025 Super Duty. Went through different scenarios, tested out how far can you take this thing, 2,000 watts, overloading it, different scenarios with heaters and power tools and all sorts of things. I shared the main reason that I purchased it or checked that box on the Ford website when I ordered my truck. So there were certain scenarios where I thought you could use this in an emergency and it would be a good backup to your backup. Well, we had that scenario and we had that emergency and it did not go so well. We arrived in the park just outside our campground about 2 p.m. on a Monday, and we needed to top off our water. In the middle of topping off our water at the dump station, it started raining. Then it started pouring and it did not let up. And we've had over 2 inches of rain, overcast skies. So the forecast looked pretty grim for our trip here to Shenandoah. We're gonna spend a little over 3 days, and it turns out that it's gonna be raining and overcast for most of them. So the first day we kind of hunkered down, and I decided that I would test out the generator for our RV because I knew it was gonna be overcast, so I could not count on solar to recharge our batteries. And I wanted to just do a trial run just in case something happens and we don't have to make a mad scramble later on into the week. So in the rain, I hooked up an extension cord, ran it to my RV's shore power, and then I started up the truck. As soon as I started up the truck and turned on the generator, I got a ground fault warning and it immediately shut the generator off. I did several more attempts with this, no luck. Really not knowing why that's happening. So then I just tried a few things that typically happen sometimes with generators and trying to run certain things off of a generator. So I thought maybe there was something wrong with the neutral. So I decided I would try to use my homemade neutral bonding plug. First I tried it on the RV, started up the generator, no luck, ground fault. Then I put the bonding plug on the truck itself and same thing, would not start. So I went round and round on some forums. I asked some questions, people reached out, but no one ever gave me a decent answer. And what I've been able to determine is that the truck uses a floating ground, and my RV quite possibly does the same thing. And when you try to plug both in to one another, they don't like it, and the truck immediately senses there's something wrong and it shuts down the generator. I was a little upset about this because the main reason I got this generator was to hook it up to RV, and I didn't have any intentions of running our air conditioner or having being hooked up to shore power, but I did thought in an emergency that I could top off my RV batteries, give them a little boost so that I didn't have to worry about our 12-volt fridge running dead or the slides or even the tongue jack because if the battery goes dead. So I just wanted that peace of mind that if our batteries did run low for circumstances like this, where we have overcast skies, we can't rely on solar, and we really don't have any other means of supplying power to our battery, that the truck was going to suffice, and it's not. A few other things, I tried using the surge protector that we have with our RV. I tried with it on, I tried taking it off and using it when it's off. Again, the truck was giving me a ground fault error and just shutting down. Now back when I tested this a couple months ago, I was basically just using space heaters, a blow dryer, heat gun. I also charged up the power station and everything worked fine with that. One thing I did notice though, that if you had a tester, like a socket tester, and if you plug it in and it's got that little button to test it for a ground fault, well, as soon as I would plug it in and I wouldn't have to hit that button, it would shut down the generator. tried it multiple times plugging it in, and again, I'm not touching the ground fault button. It shuts down the generator and gives you ground fault error. So what I can determine is that the floating neutral does not like that little plug, and it doesn't like another device with a floating neutral on it. So I'm at a little quandary because I want to make this work. That's the whole purpose of checking that little box and getting this onboard generator. Was not a primary means of powering my trailer, but a backup to powering my trailer. Now the weather forecast does not look good for the rest of the week. So not being able to figure this out, I decided we're going to have to conserve our battery power. So we really kind of lived like we were Amish. We did not turn hardly any lights on. We might have used one little light at night. We went to bed early. We only turned on the inverter if we were going to make a quick cup of coffee and shut it off. And basically we were losing about 10% overnight. And during the daytime, there was a little bit of solar coming through the overcast and the clouds and the rain. And we were able to mostly maintain during the daytime. Our first night we were down to 85% in the morning. And basically we maintained that throughout the day. The next day we were down about 70%, and we did have a little bit of sun peek out now and then, partly cloudy, mostly cloudy. We were able to get the battery back up to around 77%. So we've been just conserving our energy, did take a shower. We are using a pump periodically. We're not using any high wattage items like trying to run the TV or streaming anything like that. We are using our devices. Now luckily I did bring along with us 2 power stations. They are on the smaller side, but we were using one to just run Starlink. Starlink uses anywhere from 40 to 70 watts an hour. Just depends on the signal. And with all the rain, the wattage is a little bit higher. So we were using that, one power station just for Starlink during the daytime. And then we had another power station that we could use to charge our devices, because I was still editing videos, using my computer, trying to manage things in Tennessee, still got to communicate with the outside world. So we would charge up our devices with that. And then once those ran dead, we would hook them up to the truck and then use the truck's generator to top those off and recharge them. And we actually recharged those 4 times in the last 2 days. Once in the morning, once in just around dinner time, and that usually lasted us overnight. We had still a little bit of a residual in the morning, and then we would top it off again. Now, charging those power stations takes a good hour, so we decided that we would still try to see things in the park, even though the weather wasn't the greatest. But we went to the visitor center, visited some overlooks, checked out some other stuff, and the whole time we were doing that, we would have the power stations in the back of the truck and just topping off the power on those, so when we get back to camp, we could use Starlink and not have that wattage draw on our main battery for the RV. Now, one of the power stations that I brought in AC mode will put out around 800 watts, and you can finagle it and get a higher wattage, so you could run a coffee maker if you needed to. So I thought maybe I would charge that up, top it off, and I tried hooking that up to my RV and just seeing if maybe the wattage would be low enough. We didn't have anything else on, just the converter was going to click on, and it overloaded the power station. So I was thinking as a last resort, we could charge a power station with the truck, dump that power back into the RV, and just keep recycling it. Not the perfect scenario, not the scenario I wanted. I was looking for a plan G, just in case our battery does start running low and we're going to be packing up and leaving, and we're still going to need some power to close our slide and use the tongue jack, not to mention the refrigerator. So back to our power dilemma. I want to be able to use this generator, and so far the only thing I can determine is that the truck doesn't like the ground that is on the RV. Now the RV has components in there that knows when it is hooked up to a pedestal and you're on shore power that it's going to use that as a ground. But when you're using an inverter and you're not hooked up to anything, it's going to use that floating neutral. And that's precisely what it's using when you try to hook up the truck generator to the RV. I thought about cutting one of our extension cords and just taking the ground pin off of the prongs and give that a shot, but I didn't really want to ruin a good extension cord. We're close enough to where we're going to be leaving that we should make it out of here okay, but I still want to solve this dilemma. And what I want to do is possibly get a 2-prong to 3-prong adapter and to stop the sensing of the ground once it leaves the truck and goes to the RV, and see if I can get it to work that way. I've heard other people say that you need to disconnect the ground off of the converter temporarily. I've heard other people say that you need a special kind of transformer that I looked up, and it costs somewhere in the neighborhood of $500–600, and there's no way I want to deal with that. But to me, I'm kind of upset that this has to be so difficult, and I'm surprised that more people aren't mentioning it. Now, I have seen other people on the forums that say that it works great in their RV, and they do precisely what I'm talking about. Just charging, topping off their batteries, just using a little bit of the power, not trying to run the air conditioner or anything like that. But I don't know if different RVs have different components in there, and for some reason it just doesn't like mine. We have a pretty popular RV, so I'm surprised that I haven't heard of this before. It's a Keystone Cougar. There's a lot of them out there, a lot of the same components in there, and I'm surprised that someone else hasn't mentioned this. In my previous video, it seems that the 2,000 watt generator compared to the other ones that usually come with the Ford Hybrid or the Ford Lightning are set up differently, that the components are different and the grounding on it is different. The Hybrid and the Lightning do not have that floating neutral. All right, so we're just going to fast forward. We're done with our trip and we're back at home. I did get that 2-prong adapter, and I'm going to try to hook it up here to the truck and see if I can get this to charge my RV battery. All right, so I'm getting that ground fault issue again, even with the 2-prong adapter, but I do have the RV and the truck attached via the trailer, so I'm going to disconnect those, see if that's going to make any difference with the grounding issue. All right, we're disconnected. Let's give this another trial run. I'm getting the usual warning here, which is okay. For some reason it didn't go into generator mode. I'm going to try one more time. And it appears that it's working. Normally I would have a ground fault right off the bat, but it is drawing power. I'm a little concerned the way it's fluctuating though. I'm not sure why it is doing that. It should be fairly constant. The only thing that really should be running in the RV would just be the converter, which would be charging our batteries. All right, this is the battery itself. I'm in the Bluetooth app, and if you look where it says the big W on the left there, just to the center of the screen, you'll see the wattage is also fluctuating down to 37 watts, up to 500 watts, and that's just weird. I don't know if it's the battery doing that, if there's battery protection that is switching on and off, or if it's the converter of the RV that's making the fluctuation, but it's definitely not normal. All right, I've shut it down. I don't know if you saw that quick spike. I'm not sure what that was either. Now I'm going to hook the neutral grounding plug back up to my extension cord. And a lot of times there's certain generators when you use them with an RV like this that they require that neutral grounding plug. I also need it with certain power stations when you want to charge them. So I'm going to give that a try and see what happens. Right away there's the ground fault indicator. And again, I'm going to try, and again I got the ground fault warning, so it does not like the neutral grounding plug being plugged in. All right, we're going to go ahead and test this again. Again, I am using that 2-prong adapter, which eliminates the ground coming out of the truck and going into the RV. So no ground fault error. It is supplying power to the RV, although I still don't like the way that's fluctuating. It just kind of makes me nervous. Now this is the Victron app, and this is the shunt that is allowing power to come into the battery via the shore power or through my truck. And if you look, it's kind of hard to see, but it is also fluctuating 200 watts, 400 watts. Just not sure why it's doing that. Now the generator just shut down and said that it was exceeding its maximum capacity, but it didn't seem like the wattage draw was that high. So eliminating the ground is definitely helping, but there's still some issues here. I don't think it should have shut down that quickly. The wattage draw, I haven't seen it even venture over 1500 watts. It's been hovering just below 1000 or 500. And there it goes again, and it did not look at all in the bar graph that it exceeded its capacity. I did it before with some power tools and space heaters, and it would actually show like a red line once it got too high. Okay, now I'm just going to hook my RV right up into this power station just to give me an idea of another source to just see what kind of wattage it might be drawing. Okay, on the bottom right of the display, it is showing 1350 watts, which is a lot higher than what was being shown in the truck and a lot higher than what was being shown what was being put back in the battery. Now it's a little blurry here, but on the right, top right, it's showing that it's about 636 watts of charge being put into the battery right now. And that's about half of what my power station is saying it is putting out. I'm in the app of the power station, and I'm going to lower the amount of wattage that it will take during a charge. I'm going to set it for standard. And I'm just going to try to charge the power station right now. And standard should be somewhere around 1200 watts if it's going to accept the charge or not. Okay, no ground fault yet. It is letting power out, going into the power station right now. Okay, about 2 minutes have passed and it's still doing it, and it's not fluctuating like it was before. Okay, now I'm going to try to attach the RV back to the power station and see what happens here. Power station says it's overloaded. I don't know if you heard that buzzing sound, but that came from the back of my pickup truck. That one did not sound good. Just checking for some carbon scoring on the plugs, and that looks all right. I smell something burning. I don't know if you can see that yellow light flashing, and it is not resetting with the little green button there. Pro Power Onboard is currently unavailable. Please try again later. I'm not sure if something overheated, if it's timed out, if it needs a little time to reset. Please contact authorized dealer for service. All right, I gotta say the Pro Power Onboard is pretty much a waste, for me anyways, at this period. Wouldn't have thought I would have to jump through this many hoops to do something simple, like charge batteries on my RV. Right now I can't even get the Pro Power Onboard to work. It keeps telling me I need to call the dealer. We'll see what happens with that in the future. I really don't know why this is not a bigger issue or this isn't being talked about more. I gotta assume there's a lot of other folks out there like me that just wanted this extra feature in an emergency in case we needed to supply some auxiliary power to our RV just by topping off the batteries. I wasn't looking at trying to run the air conditioner. I wasn't looking at trying to do anything high wattage wise, but it's just kind of crazy. I'm really surprised that this is being so difficult. I know it was very hard to find information on this. There are some people that have said that they've had luck with it and it works fine for them. But right now, if your specific purpose was to just give you a little backup when you're out there RVing, it's not worth it. It's not working for me at all. It's very disappointing. I probably should have tested it out before we left for Shenandoah, but I didn't. We made do and got through it just fine. We do anticipate taking some longer trips out west where we thought this might come into play periodically. And right now I'm not sure what we're going to do. I thought maybe I would use a larger power supply now and just charge it off of that. But right now, this Pro Power Onboard's not even doing that. So I don't know what tripped inside. Maybe it's timed out. Maybe it's overheated. We'll give it some time and see what happens. Kind of frustrating. Should be something simple. It's a generator. You plug it into something to charge things, and it's not working at all. It's just too sensitive. It worked okay with a space heater, power tools. I did try messing around with some other power stations, and I had okay luck with some and some not so much. But if you're looking at doing the specific purposes that we have here, you'd be better off getting yourself a portable generator and just carrying that with you. And if you have any insight, or maybe if you've had some of the same misery I have, or if you have a solution, please leave it in the comments down below. I would love to hear what you have to say. But I appreciate everybody watching. Hope you enjoy and subscribe to these videos. Click on that little bell when you want to know when a new one's coming out, and keep an eye on us. Take care, everybody.